Welcome back, everybody. We're on part 2 of episode 116, and you know what that means. It's time for the hot tags. And let's start off with an easy one here. Jake the Snake Roberts is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. We pretty much talked about a lot of this stuff already when Jake the Snake returned, and just speculation of Hall of Fame stuff, so we're not going to go over every little single detail about it. Just in general, good idea, I think. I think it's going to be a little bit awkward if he and Warrior aren't able to patch up their little spat that they had. But what the hell? Cool idea. Wego, what do you think?
Cool. There's not much more to say, Ben. He deserves it. Glad that he's got his life all fixed up. And congratulations to Jake the Snake.
Drew?
Jake the Snake and Ultimate Warrior in the WrestleMania main event.
I would rather see it than Batista Orton.
Yep.
Miguel?
As long as they let DDP induct him, I'm completely okay. I'm okay with him going into the Hall of Fame.
Well, that's a good thing that we didn't really talk too much about. Who should induct Jake the Snake?
Diamond Dallas Page.
I can't think of anybody other than DDP necessarily. I mean, they don't really have, this storied career together in WWE, but...
anybody else would be dead.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Like Rick Rude, Macho Man would be great guys, but they're not here.
How about you get his daughter to... Oh, right.
Well, Peyton, what do you think about Jake the Snake in Hall of Fame?
I feel like this is something we should be more excited for, but for some reason, nobody really seems to care. I mean, this guy has had one of the greatest redemption stories in the history of professional wrestling. And when he was announced Monday night, we had our Raw post show, and we didn't even remember to talk about it. We completely missed that going into our rundown of Monday Night Raw, which is a shame. I say congratulations. I think there'll be a real feel-good moment on stage, especially if they have DDP and maybe even Scott Hall with him there. They can embrace and have a group hug, and I think it'll be beautiful. Yeah, long time coming. It's great that he's gotten his life on track and that he's patched things with WWE. So it's good to have him back in the family.
I think the reason that it doesn't seem as important as it should is the fact that it's clearly being overshadowed by Warrior's induction. I think, honestly, I would not have minded if Jake Roberts was the main event of the show, because they could have really played on the redemption angle of it. But since he's playing second fiddle to Warrior, I think it's just gonna be nice to see him in there, but they're not gonna make a big deal out of it. I think they should.
It seems like they're not even mentioning the whole redemption thing. I think they're going to avoid that, talking about that at all. Maybe they'll make one small mention in the video that they have for him, but it seems like they're probably going to try to distance themselves from that.
Yeah, the only thing that's been mentioned was Triple H did that sit-down interview with Michael Cole that he does weekly, and he was kind of like, he's had a very controversial in-ring and out of the ring life, but I think that's all they're going to mention. And I can't blame them. I mean, it's good publicity, but it's also bad publicity at the same time.
I think it's one of those things where we're going to see... that, like Peyton's saying, like the little recap video, they'll probably say like, and then things took a turn for the worse, and things got really bad. But then DDP came along. Like, they're going to really gloss over it. And like you're saying, like a good and bad publicity. They didn't really have anything necessarily to do with it, with the DDP end of the thing, so they can't really like claim that they necessarily helped, because I'm sure they like footed the bill for like rehab stuff, but that hasn't really worked as much as the DDP yoga, it seems. So it's kind of like sort of taking credit for something that they didn't really do. But
well, I wouldn't say it's the DDP yoga as much as it's DDP locking him in a house with him and going, no drinking.
I think Jake the Snake's getting overrun, though, by two things. Miguel, I think, had mentioned Ultimate Warrior, which you have to do it that way. I mean, as much as I don't like the idea of Warrior being the WrestleMania 30 top guy, he's clearly the bigger star between him and Jake the Snake.
That still remains to be seen. There's still a lot of people to announce, and they've done it before where the last person they announce is the headliner of it.
Yeah, true. They could do that. But I think another thing that's really overtaking it is the whole Daniel Bryan Batista thing. Like, that story this week is the story, other than one of the other hot tags we'll talk about in a minute. But, with the Raw post show, when we were watching it afterward, it was like everybody's thinking about the Royal Rumble. They go, oh, yeah, Jake the Snake, cool. But, God damn it about that Daniel Bryan thing. Like, it really, it kind of kills the moment. If they would have announced Jake the Snake last week, I think it would have been a bigger deal. Or before he made that little appearance at the old school Raw, so...
I think it'd be a bigger deal if maybe he was actually in the Rumble itself, because a lot of people thought he was going to be in the Rumble, make him a little bit more relevant to the induction.
We all thought certain people were going to be in the Rumble, Drew.
Nah, no one thought Bryan was going to be in the Rumble. Cough, cough.
Transitioning from one person who got over their problems to two people don't seem to be able to. Matt Hardy, the story when it happened was Matt Hardy and Reby Sky apparently got into a fight at a hotel. recently.
I heard it was a motel.
A motel, even, that's worse. Jeez. The story that I've seen on, scoopscoopscoops.com and everything was Reby had asked Matt if he'd been drinking, and he got super pissed off, like, what the fuck's that supposed to mean? And then they got into a fight, which is like, awful. But now we're hearing all these things from Reby Sky about the whole don't believe what you hear and all that, but we do have mugshots, so something definitely happened. And what's the tendency that the wrestler that tries to go, don't believe what you hear on the dirt sheets, but has a mugshot, is telling the truth? We're just trying to save face. Almost every single time that we hear somebody say, don't believe what you hear, it ends up coming out that it was right. Whether it's an arrest for some kind of a traffic thing, they get pulled over for a speeding ticket, or a marijuana thing with a wellness policy, it almost always ends up being right. And judging by Matt Hardy's past and everything, and Reby Sky having arguments with Sonny and I think it was like Sid or something like that. I don't know. This just seems like a total fuck up situation, and it's really a shame. I don't know what these two can do to fix this stuff. Matt Hardy looks worse than Jeff Hardy nowadays, which is funny because it was like Matt always seemed like the reliable one. It was like, oh, Jeff's such a fuck up. I wish Matt had the charisma that Jeff has. Then they'd be able to trust somebody. It's like, well, look at Matt now. All right, tagging you in, Wago. What do you think about the Matt Hardy thing?
I'm imagining there was grapes and cocaine involved.
Grapes?
You don't know about that meme? Fucking those pictures of him eating grapes and talking about how he's not. You know how he used to do that yearly thing of, oh, it's going to be Matt Hardy's year, and nothing ever fucking came of it because he's a dickhead. There was a great meme about him being fat and eating grapes. So
what, like hedonism bot on Futurama?
The guy's a fucking mess. It's a shame. But. Fuck, it's just another year of Matt Hardy. At least he didn't fake his death this year. Well, yes, there's still plenty of 2014 to do that, so hopefully he doesn't fake his death this year.
True.
Man, I was gonna make the Jeff Hardy comment, but you beat me to the punch, Mango. But this entire time, all I could think about is because one, the mugshot shot of Hardy, it looked like he just got in like a car wreck pretty much, and like glass shattered on his face. I thought that. And two, I just can't get Matt Hardy's theme in WWE out of my head and just changing the words around to make fun of him. So those are the two things I am currently thinking about.
According to his theme music, he could slap a tornado. Apparently can slap his wife too.
Oh, it's like, I can slam a drink.
Miguel, what do you think?
I don't know what else is there to think. I mean, honestly, the first thing that popped into my head is, oh yeah, I completely forgot about Matt Hardy. And right after I read the article, I went back to completely forgetting about him.
Poor Matt Hardy.
What else can you say? It's Matt Hardy, for God's sakes. I mean, he's fat. Big deal. I wish I had the Steiner clip with me.
He's going to be the new Jake the Snake, but no one gives a shit.
Just point and laugh, my fellas. Point and laugh.
Peyton, what do you think about this situation?
I think this is being blown a little bit out of proportion, but some details you didn't include on the rundown here that when I was reading about it, immediately after them both being arrested, they both filed for a restraining order on each other.
Oh.
Yet within a week, they were both seen with each other as if nothing had ever happened.
So was this the credible TMZ reporting?
Yes.
TMZ.
Yeah. You can go and hate on it. TMZ is one of the most reliable news sources out today. They built themselves up with a following and money based on reporting crap, and now they've made themselves one of the most reliable news sources that you can go to.
I can't even.
And that's fact.
Yeah, I can't even hate TMZ at this point. That's just a stain on just journalism in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
they just exploited what people were buying, and they did it for a while. TMZ has really branched out. I give them a lot of credit. I think people are overhating them at this point. Yeah, they did a lot of dirty things to get to where they were, but that's entertainment.
Fuck TMZ.
Going along with our theme of fuck-ups that are in serious trouble and need to get back on the right track, let's talk a little TNA. They decided that the new mysterious investor storyline, which is not in a reality, which is what they really need, MVP made his debut, which is kind of cool, because I like MVP, but he's not going to save TNA. So,
what?
it's it's a positive for TNA, but it's not going to be the positive. I mean, they're not going to see the ratings spike up because of MVP or anything like that. If bringing Hulk Hogan on board didn't do anything with that, nobody's really going to do it.
I don't even see it as cool, to be quite honest with you. I mean, if this had been 5 years ago, then yeah, it would have been great when MVP was relevant. But this whole thing reminds me of WCW circa late 2000, early 2001, where they were just bringing in random old people to just come in, not even actual stars from the competition. Just, hey, that guy, he's free. Let's bring him on. Let's bring on Road Warrior Animal to have him join our big anti-corporate thing, or whatever that awful storyline was at the beginning of 01.
Maybe. I mean, maybe they're just kind of the ship is sinking, so they're just going, hey, MVP would be cool in TNA while we have at the time. Wago, thoughts on MVP?
I actually thought this was a positive. I saw the video and I actually enjoyed his debut. The setting with the whole lighting and the smoke with both the wolves standing side by side, and then MVP came out to actual music that sounds similar to his WWE one and not some bullshit that TNA's slammed together. I think that helps because he records his own stuff. But it was a cool visual, and I want to see where they're going with this. I'm actually interested for the first time in a while. I'm a big MVP mark, so awesome for them.
Did he come out in that little, what do they call that thing? That little entrance,
the inflatable,
whatever.
He came out in like black suit. He both him and the wolves were wearing all black suits, and I don't know what he was holding in his hand, but he held it up in the air. But
it's a bowl of cereal.
Fucking Jack Titus's cereal and went to TNA.
Drew, MVP.
I loved MVP when he was in the WWE. I thought it was a shame that he could never grasp his hands on a heavyweight championship, but. Times pass, it's probably not going to be nothing for TNA. I mean, what's TNA nowadays? But, maybe if I'm ever not busy enough to actually watch TNA on a Thursday, I will consider it just to see MVP.
Miguel, any defense for TNA, or is it all done?
Not a single one. I expected, maybe that was my problem, is I expected a little bit more. When you do these big investor storylines, you kind of expect it to be... Drew, you got sinus issues there, man? You need to, take some...
That wasn't me!
That was Peyton.
What the heck was that? All of a sudden, I just hear... Hold on, guys, I gotta take care of this.
that was me snorting. I'm just saying, I mean, this is the same company when they had the last big mystery reveal. It ended up being Tito Ortiz, and you were trying to say you weren't expecting something terrible out of this?
Yeah, it's my fault. I honestly...
Hey, Tito was a huge star once upon a time for a 2-month period in a company that wasn't in wrestling.
Yeah. Honestly, I even assumed at one point that maybe it was going to be either Jarrett or Bischoff, that maybe they weren't as gone from TNA as I assumed, but MVP, like I said, I like MVP, but I liked him 5 years ago. He's been out of the game too long for me, but not long enough to get a nostalgia pop. He's just kind of a guy that was available that they signed, and they made him their figurehead, a sort of figurehead for some reason, and I'm just really uninterested. I mean, it's going to be a rough 2014 for TNA if they're losing me, because I've been
one fan.
Yeah, I've been defending them for a while now. Been like, no, give it till next year, guys. It'll get better. But I think I'm just turning over to the dark side.
I'd like to mention one thing to look out for. MVP's been wrestling in Japan, teaming with Shelton Benjamin, and his in-ring work's improved a lot. So that's one good positive for TNA.
One thing I'm looking out for is what they're going to use the MVP initials for, because he can't use Montel Vontavious Porter anymore, I don't think.
They're just going to have him be MVP. It's just going to be his name. It's like a channel network. It's just the acronym doesn't mean anything. It's just MVP.
Well, if they have to refer to him as like Mr. something as an investor, it'll be like Mr. P or like Mr. MVP. Like, I don't know, that's weird. Peyton, what do you think about MVP?
I thought I told you we're not talking about TNA anymore. Didn't I make that statement last week? What's going on here? All right, let's run down a list here, huh? Why don't we? Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
The Dudley Boys.
Uh-huh.
Jeff Hardy.
Woo!
Rob Van Dam. Do I need to go on here? Sting.
Yes.
Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
All these names. Eric Bischoff. Dudley Boys. All these names have come through here and has not done a damn lick of difference. Mr. Kennedy.
Why did the Dudley Boys get
You
mentioned
mean
twice?
Mr. Anderson?
Did they get mentioned? Because there's two of them. So MVP, this is going to be their ace in the hole. Like, they build this whole few-week-long storyline of having Dixie Carter trotted out every week, and this is what it leads up to, MVP. I guess some people are happy because the American Wolves are there because they were in Ring of Honor. Ooh, let's get excited because the Ring of Honor guys are on TV now. I don't care at all.
You're like the opposite of the Smark. You're the douchey Mark. It's like you've got the douchey Smark that hates all the WWE shit. You're the polar opposite.
Yeah, okay, I guess so. Listen, I don't deny that cool things can come out of Ring of Honor. I've liked a lot of the Ring of Honor guys that have come through. But these guys are unproven. I've only seen a handful of their stuff, and it wasn't like, oh my God, they're amazing. I think they got a long road to go. And they could develop that down there and then maybe come to WWE someday if there's enough time for them to develop there. But to be the backup guys to who's supposed to be this big reveal, I'm with Miguel. They could have done such a better job with this if they were going to put all these resources into it. And to have it just be MVP, if you were just going to have him come in and be a regular old wrestler, that's fine. MVP is a cool guy to add to your roster to bulk it out. Why is he a figurehead? Why is he someone who's going to be calling shots?
Yeah, and I'll say this. I will defend TNA on one thing, on what Peyton said. They did get better in the early years. I think their rise got. I think they got stagnant around, I'd say, 2009. Because I've been a fan of theirs since late 2006, early 2007, and they actually were rising up in the charts. I mean, they started out with just a 1-hour TV show that was recorded on Saturday nights, and they really built up a lot in those 2 years coming that I saw. Around 2009, they pretty much went flatlined.
I feel sorry for you, Miguel. You missed the best year. 2005 was the pinnacle of TNA.
That wonderful year of 2007 where we had Fat Goldust reaching up into mailboxes for rat cages and mouse traps.
Listen. Everybody praises WWE in 1999, and there was some junk in that year too.
That's true. I say the most entertaining thing TNA's got going for them right now is Rockstar Spud. He's fucking hilarious.
Well, that's enough TNA. That's enough TNA talk. Let's get to the big one of the night. CM Punk might have left WWE. I'm not sold on this yet. Nope. I still think that this isn't work. The thing that confuses me about this, though, it kind of makes me go 50-50 here and there. I think it's one of two things. One, it's totally legit, and they told him on Monday night, like, look, we decided that we're going to go with a different direction at WrestleMania. You're not going to be wrestling Triple H. We're going to do the Daniel Bryan Triple H match because he is a bigger star, and we can't just put him in with somebody like Sheamus. We're not going to turn Sheamus heel like we were planning. We're going to keep him a babyface for now, so we can't do Punk and Triple H. We have to do Bryan and Triple H, and we'll give you something else. Maybe they even told him you'll work with Kane in a mid-card match or something like that. And by that point, he was just like, look, I'm beaten up, I'm fucking annoyed, and you're taking away, you didn't even give me the Royal Rumble win or the title match, and you're going to take away the consolation prize now? Fuck you, I'm gone. Or two, total fucking work, and this is Punk's idea of the only way people will believe this is if you go full out, remove me from posters, remove me from articles, and all this other kind of shit. And then there's that tweet that AJ had tweeted out that said, yeah, this isn't a work, that kind of thing, and then she deleted it afterward. It's one of the two. I can't imagine it being just, well, he up and left and, whatever. That happens. It had to have been sparked by something or whatever. Some people are saying that it was a concussion, that they tested him for it and he tested positive, but they wanted him to come out and say that he didn't or something. There's all these contradictory reports, of course, and a lot of them are probably total bullshit. So you can't really believe anything what you read until, I think, the Raw after Elimination Chamber. If Punk does not come out on that Raw, then he's gone from WWE. But up until then, it's up in the air. Wego, what do you think about the Punk situation? Is it a work? Is it building towards something? Or did he just get pissed off and left?
I'm fucking salivating at the fact of everyone on the forums and all over the internet looking like absolute cunts when this turns out to be a work. The fucking rants that the internet are making about how WWE's horrible and Punk did right for leaving, or Punk's a horrible person for leaving. I can't wait till this goes back in their face. This fucking smells of a work. There's no way it's not. WWE would be trying a lot harder to cover it up. More information would have been leaked if it had have left. If a guy quits like that, like remember when Austin quit, we fucking had a whole bunch of shit all over the internet straight afterwards. This is definitely a work. There's no way it's not. And I think it's smart. I mean, that's the best route to go with CM Punk. Everyone finds him more entertaining when he's breaking the breaking kayfabe. So sure, go for it. I think it's the best thing for him right now, and it plays directly into the authority angle. So I can't wait till this blows up in everyone's face. They get made to look like a cunt, and we get to move forwards with this storyline.
Tagging you in, Drew.
Hot tag. Anyways, it's like this. If I'm kind of 50-50 on it, kind of like you, Miguel.
Ooh,
but
yeah, hot tag.
but if this is true in that he left WWE, this is a huge loss for them, because pretty much right now, when it comes to the smart fans, the indie fans, it was just Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. All of them are pissed off about the Daniel Bryan thing. Some people are just not watching it. They're complaining about it. If CM Punk is gone, they're losing a lot of people. Almost everyone who goes to Mania are the indie, the smart fans, as you could tell in the crowd. So, I don't think this wouldn't affect Mania, but going forward after Mania, oh, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if Raw attendances would just drop, because they do provide a lot of the Raw attendance and that kind of stuff. That's one thing I see that's bad, but it's just a weird situation, because Steven kind of covered it. It's just weird that not more information is really leaked, just despite for the fact that he didn't show up for Raw, he didn't show up for SmackDown, and then after that they just cut him off from all future appearances with the company. And and if it is a work and he does come back, everyone will be happy. But if he doesn't come back, Chicago is on the list of Raws coming up before Mania. Oh, dude, that's gonna be a hell of a crowd that they're gonna have to deal with. But actually, now I'm thinking, if he does come back, I don't know what day Chicago is, but I think it's in March. So if he doesn't come back before the March or on the Chicago pay-per-view, or not pay-per-view, Raw, just then I definitely believe he'll be gone.
Miguel?
I'm willing to. I think it's real. Maybe I'm buying in too much into it, but here's the big reason why. I don't have any faith that WWE would put this much effort into a storyline. We've been here before where we've sat here and been like, oh, if they went with this route and they did all this to make this seem real and whatnot, and WWE usually just plays it as face. They just play it whatever's on TV. They don't really go in depth with the whole gorilla, the whole gorilla kayfabe thing. It's usually just whatever you see on TV is what you get. And I don't think they're willing to go this deep into a CM Punk storyline. Maybe Daniel Bryan, but I honestly believe that CM Punk probably was just frustrated with the direction that the company was going and just decided to leave. It does not shock me.
You don't think they would even go that far when it comes to something as important as WrestleMania 30?
I don't think so. Not for Punk. I don't think Punk in their eyes is that big enough of a star. I mean, what has he been doing this past year right now except these lame duck feuds? Mm-hmm. He hasn't really been doing anything worth them getting overly excited, and the big hot star right now is Daniel Bryan. If it was Bryan, then yeah, I'd totally believe it was a work, but CM Punk just out of the blue just leaving, I'd sooner believe that he just got fed up with the company than, somebody pulled him over to the side and, hey, we're going to do this big elaborate storyline for you where you pretend to leave.
You know how you're saying you don't think they'd put that much effort into a CM Punk storyline? Well, if it's leading to a Triple H match, they do it for Triple H.
I don't know what that whole. If it's still leading to a Triple H match, maybe. But like I said, WWE plays it too face for me. Anything that they do is usually done just straightforward. They don't really do the whole guerrilla backstage. We're going to kayfabe the smart fans out there, because your average fan isn't going to care. It isn't going to really have a concept that CM Punk just left. They're just going to be like, oh, CM Punk isn't on TV this week or next week.
Peyton?
I don't really think they are going very deep with this. I mean, all that happened is CM Punk just supposedly left, and one little story was leaked out to the dirt sheets, and then people are going crazy. I mean, it's the fans who have really blown this up. WWE has done absolutely nothing to support this story. This is all the fans' work. You know what WWE did? They unfollowed Punk on Twitter.
Oh,
that's what they did. That's got everyone in such a tizzy.
That's some serious shit for WWE, though. Social media is everything.
Yeah, and Punk's going to get that message now where it's that who unfollowed me. He's going to see that at WWE. He's going to be pissed.
My opinion is that this is all a work. I actually don't think that they. Miguel says he doesn't credit them for being smart enough to come up with something like this, and I don't think they are either. I think this is a happy accident. I think Punk, as we've all been saying for a while now, is just beat up. He doesn't have the motivation he needed. I think he needed some time off, and he probably ran in. He probably was frustrated. He probably was upset that Daniel Bryan didn't get the spot at the Royal Rumble, or himself, or somebody else more deserving than Batista. I'm sure there was a modicum of that's true, because Punk is a bit of a drama queen, and I think it actually is possible that this could be real. I don't want to completely discount the fact that it could be. Punk is absolutely the type of guy that would do a thing like this. I say by the time we come to WrestleMania, though, whether this is legit or not, Punk will be back, and they will find a way to work things out. This is what Punk loves. This is what Punk does, and he doesn't have a lot more time to keep doing it. He's getting older, and his body is getting more beat up. Going into WrestleMania with the high-profile match that we all think he's going into, this would fit absolutely perfectly to it, because Punk's character is supposed to be the anti-establishment, the anti-authority guy. So him walking out and being a complete rebel about it fits it perfectly. I mean, this is exactly what CM Punk should be doing. So as I'm saying, either way this goes, I'm seeing him back by WrestleMania, and I think everyone just needs to chill and just see where this goes. And if he is gone, he doesn't come back. We had a lot of good years with Punk. Last year was not one of them. So I won't miss him particularly because of that. I think we've already seen the best that Punk has to offer. And in time, no matter what it is, we probably will see Punk somewhere again. Whether it's in wrestling, whether it's in something. I believe he said he wants to go into making comic books, so I'm sure he'll still be on the Comic-Con scene and all that. Punk's not going away. He'll be around.
Pardon me. You go, Miguel.
I was going to say, if they do end up bringing him back before WrestleMania, I think it's just going to be because they threw a dump truck full of money at him. I think they're probably just going to be like, listen, here's an extra zero at the end of your pay. Come back to the company. We need you for WrestleMania. All right. An extra zero, I'd do it.
Yeah. A part of me believes that Punk has been it just looked like Punk was half-assing everything since SummerSlam. Like the feud with Paul Heyman, the Shield feud wasn't really anything special. He cuts like the same promo every night, like, oh, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass, with Kane, everyone else, blah 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 blah. And the part of me, if you're looking at that, it doesn't look like it'd be at work. He looked frustrated ever since.
It's hard to make chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Yeah, well, there's that for one. And two, if he did leave, and this is like an actual thing, and he really left, whose fault do you think it is? Would you guys think it would be a Triple H issue or a Vince McMahon issue?
It's Punk's fault.
Yeah, if Punk left, it's Punk's fault. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the machine's going to keep running with or without him. He can choose to stick around, voice his opinions, not. I think he's just been phoning it in. It's a shame. I think he's capable a lot more with what he was given, but he wasn't given a lot last year.
I think both parties need to take blame if that's true, because they should be using Punk better than they did with this whole Paul Heyman feud. That was just really fucking dragged out. And if they couldn't think of anything better for him, it's not necessarily his responsibility to be, the creative team as well as the wrestler and everything. He's got to have some input, of course, but it shouldn't solely fall on him. But at the same time, if they give him that trust and they go, well, you know what, you can go out there and you can do what you want to feud with Paul Heyman for whatever you want to do, then that's up to him to do better than that. He really was phoning it in. And yeah, like to an extent, like the machine is going to move on, like Wago was saying. And sometimes you aren't the guy at the top. Like, Punk just went through an entire year where he was the champion. So maybe he doesn't need to be in the WWE title picture. Now, that's not an argument for Batista should. I think it still should be Daniel Bryan, but he doesn't need that match with Triple H. He could take this year and have a match with Kane, and a good match with Kane too, and be that big enough star for that mid-card match, because you do need those big stars to have those mid-card matches too. You can't have a mid-card match at WrestleMania be Yoshitatsu versus JTG. Nobody's going to give a shit. That's where, like, WrestleMania is one of those pay-per-views where the big guys don't necessarily get the big matches sometimes. I mean,
there's only so many spots left. And
right. We've had Randy Orton versus Kane. We've had.
Do they get all the big guys around to draw straws? Whoever gets the shortest has to wrestle Kane.
Well, we had like the Cody Rhodes and Big Show match, which was like Cody Rhodes was doing a hell of a lot with the Intercontinental title at the time. Big Show is a former multi-time champion, and you know what? That was a really solid mid-card match, and you need that because you can't just bring a bunch of celebrities in and have Maria Menounos wrestle a bunch of divas or something, you can't take those giant spots like a Batista. Even if you had Batista versus anybody else, Brock Lesnar, Sheamus, Ryback, or whatever, he would still need to be a somewhat featured match. He couldn't get the first match of the night or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think one time around here? If they do bring Punk back, real quick, how would you want them to? Wigo?
That's a tough one without thinking about it too much, but I suppose if you bring him back, maybe you bring him back with Vince and do the whole... Because they've been talking about doing this whole Vince trying to get his company back thing. CM Punk doesn't like the new rule of Triple H. Maybe throw him in there with Vince, and it might be a bit odd since Vince and CM Punk are kind of like the oddest allies ever, but I think it's got a lot of potential. But other than that, I'd need a moment to think about it, so that's what I'm going to throw out there for now.
Drew, what do you think?
If they do bring him back, maybe farther down the line, maybe on Raw, they actually acknowledge that Punk left the company as a work still. And, then a few weeks pass, Triple H is out there cutting a promo or something, and then CM Punk's music comes out, and he just comes out and just start beating the shit out of Triple H. Well, with a kendo stick, of course, because that's the only weapon he really uses nowadays. And, they could build something off that.
Miguel?
I think you guys are I think it's I don't know why people are assuming that he should come back as a face. I think he's done as much as he can as a baby face. I want to see him come back as a heel, and I think he'd be a great foil against Daniel Bryan. To me, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. I mean, he's been a face for this long, and he's gone against most of the major heels that I could think of that are exciting. At this point, I think the best course of action would be to bring him back as a heel and have him go after Daniel Bryan. You could play it as a jealousy angle. You could play it that he turned... I don't know if you want to play it that he turned corporate, because I don't think that would fit in with Punk, but you could do something where he comes back and goes after Daniel Bryan, and honestly, I think that would be a great feud. I think Punk works better when he's able to just go all out as a heel, and I think as hot as Daniel Bryan is, he needs a big enough heel to keep that pace going post-WrestleMania.
I don't agree with turning him heel. He just went from heel to face, and going back to heel again, it'd be way too soon.
Yeah, his heel
I wouldn't mind him being like an in between, edgy and fighting Daniel Bryan. I mean, how often do we actually get a feud about just being the better wrestler?
You could do that. I mean, that could build up to a heel turn, but I'm bored with seeing CM Punk as a face. It was great when he was a face going against like an authority figure, but just being a regular baby face, I mean, we already have that with John Cena.
His heel run in 2012 wasn't that good, though.
Well, Peyton, what do you think is the best way to bring him back if that happens?
I think the best thing they could do is take advantage of how much this has caught on virally and keep pushing that. Keep getting people to tweet about this. Keep getting the crowd to chant CM Punk at all the events. Keep egging them on as much as you can. How to do that, I don't know. I would have to sit down and think deeper into that. But I would keep getting the crowd fiery, more and more fiery about this situation, just as they are with Daniel Bryan. As upset as people are with Daniel Bryan, keep them getting upset about CM Punk being gone too. That way, when you finally lead up to him bringing him back, it'll be that much more significant. And I would have like teases with him too, coming back, that fit to that same style. Have him interrupt things on WWE.com. I think they did something similar with that when they had the that new WWE 2K14 video game announcement. Or maybe it was WWE 13, whichever one it was, the Revolution one that had CM Punk in it, fittingly enough, when they would just have random little tidbits
13.
Interrupt. Yeah, that's what I said, the one with CM Punk. And it had CM Punk in the commercial as well. they would just have it interrupting random YouTube videos in the middle of it for a few seconds, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what is that?" I think everyone thought that it was going to be Dean Ambrose or something like that, but it ended up just being the video game. People were upset, of course they were, whatever. But I thought the whole campaign was great. They should do something like that with Punk leading up to this. Have little interrupted snippets, maybe flashing a picture of him or flashing the straight edge arms or whatever it may be, and just keep teasing and teasing it. And Drew mentioned it before. They're in Chicago. No better night to do it. Just keep delaying it until the end, though. I mean, keep that crowd hot, keep them salivating until you finally bring him out.
What would you think about not having him come back till Mania and kind of like submit the challenge through those videos and then have the big return at Mania and get a huge pop for it?
I think you could do that too. Didn't they do something like that with somebody recently?
If you smell.
Yeah. I kind of have a combination of those in my mind. I'm of that mentality where I still think you need to have that Daniel Bryan versus Triple H match to end WrestleMania this year and not Punk versus Triple H. So I like the idea of Punk and Kane wrestling each other either as a singles match or in a tag match of some sort. So my idea would be you really bump up that mid-card match, and you do that by giving it this high-profile thing that really it kind of simmers itself, and like we were mentioning earlier, the fans are doing most of the work. That Chicago show, if that's after Elimination Chamber, then that's the time to do it, I think. You don't really mention Punk at all, and you have Kane really like be a total dick to everybody else. You know, the people like Dolph Ziggler and maybe The Miz, maybe Kofi Kingston, some guys that are like they seem like they keep getting pushed down and never really given a chance. And maybe he gets a couple allies in the way. Damian Sandow, Alberto Del Rio, because fuck him, he's not going to have a normal singles match. You know, you get a couple of people like that start kind of going, yeah, I'm going to join with the Authority because that's the way to go. And you build that into Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. You make it Triple H is just, he has too many people on his side, and Daniel Bryan's getting his ass kicked and all this. And like Peyton was saying, you let it simmer, you build it up. Chicago, the people are like, oh my God, we're chanting for CM Punk all night. You end that episode with a whole beatdown of the Authority and who comes out to save Daniel Bryan, CM Punk. Leads to CM Punk leading a team of Dolph Ziggler and all them against Kane and his team of Authority people, WrestleMania mid-card match. That's what I'd go with, but who knows. That'll do us in for the hot tags, though. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, and we're going to come back after the rest hold and start reviewing all the Royal Rumble matches. And then we're going to take care of some Fantasy League business. Woo!
What?